Hello, Herd, and welcome to another episode of the Herd Main Show. I'm your Herd leader, John Wayne,
And I'm your herd mom, Megan.
and today we have Herd guest Michael Moreci. Hey, Michael.
Yay!
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. How are you, sir?
Uh, yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We're all in the same boat, I think, just socially distancing ourselves, which is I'm a socially distant person, so this is actually I've been prepared for this.
Yeah, you've been training your whole life for this.
Yeah, I'm the great combination of a Gen X and a writer, so I've been waiting for this.
Gotcha. We have you on today to have some wonderful conversations because you've been in the world of Star Wars comics before, and recently in this new year you've returned to it with Star Wars Adventures, and by the time this episode gets out, the new Clone Wars Battle Tales comics. When we last had you on before, we had talked about your Flight of the Falcon series.
Mhm.
What has changed for you since Flight of the Falcon to now, in terms of Star Wars comics?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll add a important note, I guess, for everyone to know. This is that was just kind of announced today. The Clone Wars series is actually delayed
Oh,
because yeah, well, all comics are delayed. Everything. Diamond, the single distributor for comics, the comic shops, is not shipping comics for the foreseeable future, obviously because COVID-19. So
totally understandable.
it's yeah, it's the right call. It for sure is. But so I'm still happy to talk about it. I mean, it is still happening. We have the issues already. It's just we don't know when. Soon, I can say.
Just
Uh,
get hype.
Yeah.
yeah, still get excited. They'll be there and they'll exist for a while. So it's all totally fine. So anyway, so what has changed? I think the big thing for me, like the almost like monumental thing I could say is that everything that I've done from Lucasfilm, from Flight of the Falcon to the other stories that I did the Rise of Skywalker, I did the post Rise of Skywalker issues, not, and I've confused people by this, and this is my fault, not post the story. Like these issues don't take place past the narrative; they were just released after the movie. So
Right.
clarification there. I am not writing what happens to Rey after the events of Rise of Skywalker. No, that's no.
But
I wish.
if you want to, we would certainly love that.
Oh, absolutely.
I would love it. I would love it. Oh God, that would be something. Her going around and with her cool staff yellow lightsaber. Like, come on,
Oh,
we all
yeah.
want that. So anyway, so every time that all the stuff that I had done, including Fight of the Falcon, was stuff that was like, and this is typical of Lucasfilm, is they say, hey, we want a story that's part of this initiative tied to this, or in this time, all very sensible and correct instructions for them to make. Clone Wars Battle Tales is different because this is actually an idea that I brought to Lucasfilm. So
Ooh.
it's the biggest. I think this is and there's a lot baked into that because one, I brought it to them because I think most people know this. I am a staunch prequel defender.
Yeah,
I don't mess
I
around.
I saw your shirt recently on Twitter, and I am quite jealous. I love the prequel Defender Force shirt you got.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was another podcast that they were like, "Do you want this shirt?" I was like, come on. Of course I want that shirt. Send me a dozen. um, um, but yeah, so because I love it so much, I think we all knew that Clone Wars would eventually come back and finish that season, and like the moment it did at San Diego Comic-Con, I believe it was, when it got announced, I went to Lucasfilm and had this proposal of like, let's do this thing, let's do this Battle Tales, because we kind of already had the template because of Cavan Scott's work with Vader's Castle, which is
Mhm.
it's following the same thing. Same, if you know that series, it's gonna be that template of like story, like a framing story is what it's called. Like the first 3 pages are like, hey, we're in the present, and it leads to the remember when, and the remember when is like the bulk, the 15 pages, the meat of the issue, and that's like clones telling stories of previous battles and stuff like that, and then 2 pages to kind of lead into the next issue. So that's what Vader's Castle was. That's what Battletale was. So it was a good it was a digestible sell to Lucasfilm because Clone Wars was coming back. We already had the template. So it was just one of those things where stars aligned, and I was able to convince them that this is a great idea, and people love clones and Star Wars adventures. Kids love clones, so let's do some clone stuff, and they went for it, and I'm thrilled. But that's the biggest thing that's coming out of that's from where I was with Flight of Falcon to where I am now.
That's really interesting. I mean, like, I guess sometimes I lose scope of how long some of these ideas can be worked on and discussed and met about before we actually see an end product. Because we've known about Clone Wars for a while, and so was it pretty quickly after that that you went to them with this idea?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, yeah, I've been working on this story, the series, for quite a while. Comics is a weird animal because of the way that ordering works. The actual getting comics in the shops for retailers to order them and get them on the shelves and people to buy them. If you announce something like Clone Wars, when you can announce that the series, the actual animated series, you can announce that a year or more before it's actually coming back. And then when it comes on, like, people will be there. Comics is a little bit different. The ordering system's wacky. So you can't announce it like far ahead in advance. You gotta like announce it and have it ready to be ordered by retailers and hyped by fans, etc. So we had to sit on it for quite a while, but this is something, that I've been working on for a good while. I can't remember when I actually like put pen to paper, but I don't know, at least a year, something like that, probably.
Well, I'm sure it's going to show in the final product.
Yeah, definitely. So is there, like you said that you've been working on this story for a while before, it actually came to fruition, but is there like a holy grail Clone Wars story that you have in mind that you really want to tell?
There were 2. One they let me do. One they did not. And I could be candid because I get asked this question. I feel like almost every day. Is Ahsoka in this series? No, she is not. I wish. That's the one that they said no. Ahsoka is if you're a fan, Ahsoka's a tricky character, been a well-guarded character for good reason. And there's plans for her, as we've seen now. She's in season 2 of Mandalorian. There's just a lot of stuff with Ahsoka. So we were told no Ahsoka. And I had a story that I thought was really good that did not get approved. That was the only one they said no to. Of all the story ideas I sent, that was the one hard no. But the one I did get to tell was to make my own clone, to do a series.
Oh,
Yeah. There's a brand new clone. Heater is his name. He has a bad temper, so he's Heater. And
I like it.
yeah, the clones are always, usually so. They have those kind of really perfectly categorized names. But there's an issue 4, I think. I think it's 4. It might be 3. I'm pretty sure it's 4. But it's a brand new clone. I wanted to be like, set out on this adventure of writing these stories, and I wanted to say I want to do my own clone and tell a story with clones we haven't seen before. There's a whole team. Heater's the leader, and there's 3 other clones with Heater that make a unit that go on a kind of mission we haven't seen before.
Gotcha. That's cool.
That is really cool. I can't wait to have a new clone that I'm incredibly attached to, and then
how many? So the serious question is, when they make this into an action figure, how many are you going to buy?
All of them.
As long as we get one, it's cool.
I want my Black Series figure. I want my Black Series Heater.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and I love that you posted a great pic a while back. I think I saw it first on Instagram of that Wolf is going to show up. And I really got excited because I'm a nerd. and it was the wolf with the kind of red coloring instead of the gray.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's just a thing for me because I liked the Troopers Sinker and Boost when they had the red color, and then when Wolf came in, I was like, ew, he's gray. I didn't like the color change, so
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about this. You're currently sitting under a portrait of Wolf
right.
that we have hang on our
I
wall.
said I was a nerd.
That's wild. I'll
Um,
tell you as a quick aside, I like Wolf a lot. Don't get me wrong. Until I
mhm.
posted that made that post, I didn't know people were so into Wolf. I had no idea. But people like are
Oh,
wild about Wolf and the Wolf Pack.
oh yeah. It really spread wild. And the crazy thing is it's not a bad thing because Star Wars has kind of got this baked into it naturally. It's a lot about just aesthetic because Wolf doesn't necessarily do much. I mean, he's
Mm-mm.
usually there
He's
with
just cool.
Chloe, he's cool, but like it's really just about he looks cool. And his name is
Right.
Wolf. I mean, come on.
And he's Dave Filoni's baby
I mean,
son.
yeah, basically it's
Yeah,
Dave Filoni's Star Wars.
basically.
That's awesome.
Dave Filoni already Embo,
Right.
so
And Chopper and
and Chopper.
Bucket. So there you go. So you mentioned Heater, and you've got a lot of stuff you've worked on in other comic worlds like horror and sci-fi. Like we really have been enjoying like Hexagon, Archangel 8, The Plot. I mean, you really get out
Yes.
there in a lot of things that are clearly purely Moreci brand. When you're kind of coming into something, especially as big as Star Wars, do you always kind of approach it with this idea of wanting to do something like Heater that leaves a mark on it uniquely to you?
That is a really good question. Yes and no. Yes, I mean, let me hear how do I explain this best? So, um, when I am doing, here's the trick. For when I'm doing, or when anybody's doing something like Star Wars, or you're doing Thor, Batman, whatever, a big property that doesn't belong to you, that you're going and playing that sandbox. The trick is to be able to tell a story that is thoroughly that, like it's thoroughly a Star Wars story, it's thoroughly a Picard story or whatever, but balancing that with your own DNA, like, because if you don't put in your own kind of point of view and your own kind of stamp, like you say, then it's just kind of a carbon copy, which is nobody really wants that. You gotta, so it's
Right.
striking that balance where when you're doing like Hexagon or Archangel 8 or Plot or whatever, it's, I don't have that concern, and it's all like my point of view and my aesthetic and my, kind of craft of storytelling that's me. But
Hmm.
it's difficult to find those ways to like make your thing. But like Heater, I think is thoroughly me. He's like a more of a complicated storyline. It's still very appropriately for kids and meant for kids, but it's a little bit of like my own stuff that I do in my work that usually has this like moral complexities in it about what is the right and wrong decisions that Heater has made and can make. So it feels like something that's me, and that creating a new character gave me that opportunity, because you can't just take Rex, and just do something totally, like un-Rexian with it.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned like your kind of moral injections and stuff because I think that's the stuff I know for me, I love, especially, I mean, like Wasted Space is a really great example. And
Mhm.
then you slap great art from Hayden on top of that. And I think that's what makes that. There's a lot of cool stuff, there's a lot of funny stuff, but it's the ways that you kind of get into the deeper things in whatever medium you have that I think is really what blows your stuff up and what really makes it favorites, I guess, for us, and I'm sure for
Well,
others.
I appreciate that. I mean, that's something that it took me a while to figure out like I feel like every writer has their own point of view, their own aesthetic, their own what is meaning for them in stories, and I have a background in, philosophy. That was my like original major, and I still read philosophy to this day, and I'm still very concerned with um, moral choices and what is moral and what isn't. I think it's very salient, especially in light of recent developments and things like that. Yeah, I mean, that's something that I think always finds its way into my stories in one way or another. And depending on the story I'm telling and who it's for, depends on it will kind of dictate how much. I like to do a lot of kid stuff. So like Hexagon, for example, which you mentioned, will have a little bit of it. I still like to put in those things because I think kids gravitate towards it. I know that kids don't want to be talked down to. Like as a father and seeing what my kids read and how they read, I know that they want important and bigger ideas just told to them in ways that they can understand. And whereas like adults, like Archangel or Wasted Space, like you can go full on and have that is the story. That is the fabric of the story itself, are those moral questions that I really enjoy thinking about and delivering in the text that I approach.
I think that definitely really shines. And then so with something like Star Warsy, I mean, with Battle Tales coming out, that's one. But in general, when you do like Star Wars stuff, and like you said, you kind of have to step into something that kind of already exists. There's a framework that you can't really just hijack. Like, is the research for that as simple as just like rewatching movies, or like, say you're trying to get in the feet of a particular character? How do you do that? Do you just digest a bunch of information, or what's your style?
Yeah, I mean, luckily, I love Star Wars so much. So, like, I will, yeah,
It's
right.
good research.
I'll happily go down that rabbit hole, and I always do it for whatever, even if it's like just an 8-page backup, or whatever. I'm like, okay, I want to nail this as much as possible, nail the feel of, if it's a sequel story, like I want to go back and have myself be as fresh in the sequels as possible, the sequel trilogy as possible. For Clone Wars, yeah, I mean, I went. It's funny because I have watched Clone Wars through. I don't know how many times. Like, because I watched them through more than once, and then I've watched episodes here and there. So who knows what the count is? But the crazy thing is that when I went back I'm watching it. When I started writing Clone Wars, I'm watching it with a different lens. So I went back and I was watching it specifically, with writing in mind. I really learned like a lot. Like, I think like, for instance, like one of the cool things that I've learned is like every clone, like their personalities, and it's so great. And we can talk about this and people have talked about this extensively, of like the personalities of each clone are not the same. But it's like this cool nature and nurture relationship, where you see like every clone starts to kind of adapt to their Jedi. Like Cody and Obi-Wan are very, very similar. They're very by the book. They're very just like, and Rex is the more risk taker, outside the box thinker, because he's with Anakin, Wolf and Plo Koon, like, even though the show gave us limited interactions, we can see how they work together and how they, like, the clones kind of adapt and the Jedi adapt as well to each other. So it's pretty neat. I never really thought about that, but like, it's something I learned, and definitely something I put in the comics. It's like, this is how these relationships work, and it's important to really understand those kinds of things, to make it feel as adjacent to the thing that exists as possible.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Did you have a particular arc of the Clone Wars that you would say is your favorite, or like a particular
Oh, for sure, the Krell. The Krell is the best.
I wanted to die.
I laugh. I'm sorry, because I just saw the horror come over her face, because that's her least favorite.
Okay.
Oh, I get it. It's
We were just
that is dark.
Oh yeah.
When we started the Clone Wars, I did not realize how attached I would get to a couple of different clones. Like when we first watched Domino Squadron.
Yeah, like the Camino.
Oh.
Yeah.
Heavy was my
Oh god, yeah.
And then
like,
I got attached to Fives.
I've discovered in as she gets more into Star Wars how much I enjoy withholding vital information and seeing it
You suck.
happen live. So she fell in love with Heavy in one episode and had to get over his loss in the next one.
A lot of clones bite it,
But no,
over the course of the series, and especially in the Krell, like a lot of clones go down. But on a positive note, sorry to interrupt you, but on a positive, I want to make sure that you know that Heavy is in the comic series.
There you go.
Michael,
There's that.
you're a beautiful.
I do my best.
No, but I'm with you. And I think that's because you were talking earlier about how even in Star Wars and even in something that's meant more for a younger audience that can be enjoyed by a more mature audience, I think Umbara is a great example of that in the Clone Wars, where it's very real in terms of what war in this sort of setting would be like, but it doesn't go as far as it probably could have.
Right. And it's important to show, if you want to show the importance of Anakin and Obi-Wan and whomever treating the clones not as fodder, but as men and as individuals, you have to show somebody who doesn't, and how terrible that is. And that's the Krell and Barin arc certainly achieved that.
Absolutely. Well, and I think there's this, there's examples of this, I think, that have come up in like Wasted Space too, where it's this kind of moral muddiness in terms of you've got one person that can believe in something so well, like Anakin believes you should treat the clones right because they're still people, and you've got this whole other Jedi who, for all intents and purposes, because he's a Jedi, should be agreeable to that and is the complete opposite spectrum. Krell just sees them as equivalent as droids and uses them as tools for war, and it's really interesting how in the institution of the Jedi you can get such different characters like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and that's something that, like, it's not a mystery why that's my favorite arc, probably because it does have that moral muddiness. I mean, obviously Krell is wrong and proven to be wrong, but there is some logic to his thinking of, like, like you said, they're tools. They're made. They're specifically made for this, to fight and die for the Republic, and that's why where we have them. I couldn't possibly agree. It's horrifying. But there is at least a logic there, and it makes things complicated. Again, like, to show the clarity, you have to show the complication as well. And that's what that story did so well.
Absolutely. I mean, okay, so I think we could go on and on about Clone Wars, but yeah. We don't want to eat up too much of your time, and obviously we want to have content for future episodes, because you're definitely 3 episodes in with us, a friend of the show. So thank you so much, Michael, for giving us some time to chat. It's always fun. It's always a good reminder that creators are fans too, and we just appreciate all that you do and your contribution to Star Wars.
Oh, yeah, and likewise, I can, appreciate all your contributions as well. I think all of us are, and I will say this to the end, like, first and foremost fans, and we do this because we love it, and that's there's no better motivation than that.
Oh, absolutely. It puts Star Wars in good hands. So we name dropped a lot of your stuff, obviously, but if any of our listeners want to check out other works of yours in the sci-fi and horror world, what's a quick and easy place they can get some of that info?
Well, there's my website, michaelpmoreci.com. I'm at Michael Moreci on Twitter and Instagram. It's as I mentioned at the top of the show, it's kind of a weird time to get stuff because anything new is being delayed with comics, but I have the first volume of The Plot just came out, and that's you can get that if your comic shop is doing orders, or curbside pickup, or there's always Amazon, Barnes and Noble, etc. It's available digitally. Waste of Space is available. There's always stuff available on Comixology, Kindle. So there's ways to find it even in this it's a tricky time, I guess is what I can say. But yeah, I'm around and always happy to talk.
Awesome. Well, we definitely encourage our fans to check that out, and we'll link that in the description below. But thanks again.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me. I'm always glad to come and talk. And let's do this again when the comics are gonna be out for real.
Right, absolutely.
We're
You can
gonna we can have a 10-minute episode where I cry about
Well, at
it.
least you know he doesn't die in the comics, so.
exactly. There you go.
That's my only solace.
Hey guys, just wanted to cap off the show and say once again just how thankful we are for Michael for coming on the show. He was our first guest interview, and he remains to be a good friend of the show and just a really talented guy. And if you don't know, he's been lately doing videos where he talks through writing skills. He teaches as far as writing, and so essentially he's doing videos of these sorts of classes and making them free and available to anyone. And so we're going to link all of his awesome information in the description below, whether this is YouTube or Apple or wherever you get the Nerd Herder podcast. We'll link his social media and definitely check that out if you're a writer, if you're aspiring to be where Michael is, or maybe not that big, but if you just want to improve your skills, write more, write better, then I highly recommend you check it out and just check out all of his other things. If you love Star Wars, I know we had a short time with Michael, so we name dropped a few things, didn't really get to talk about everything, but if you've checked out our interviews with him before, we talk about wasted space all the time. Whenever Michael's around, and if you follow our social medias, we're constantly talking about wasted space. It's my favorite new comic series for sure. If you love Star Wars, if you like grungy, if you like post-apocalyptic, if you like dark humor and a little moral twist, Wasted Space is an awesome comic. It's been going on real strong now. Has an amazing artist, Hayden Sherman, who he's also on Twitter. I highly recommend you follow him too because he posts all kinds of cool art that he works on. But he does the art for Wasted Space. It's amazing. It's weird. It's just a really great series. We also mentioned Hexagon, Archangel 8. Those are other sci-fi esque ones. If you've ever seen the movie Dogma, then Archangel 8 is like that on steroids and way more serious. Hexagon is like the last starfighter for the modern era. They're both super cool, super fun, and very sci-fi. So if you like Star Wars, which I'd hope so if you're listening to this podcast, those would be great for you. He also dabbles in horror. He is one of our favorite horror writers right now, outside of some of the big names, obviously. Stephen King is sort of the god of the era, but Michael Moreci is definitely on our list for sure. And with stuff like The Plot, if you like creepy things, if you like reading things that make your spine tingle, if you like having nightmares because of a little 18-page comic, then The Plot's awesome. It's super trippy, super creepy. Again, amazing art. I don't know what it is about Michael, but he always partners with great artists. And then there's also The Mall. It's creepy and in a different way. It's not your ghosts and ghouls kinds of creepy. It's much more post-apocalyptic. It takes place in a mall where a society has been built after some great happening. Something bad happened. Think Day of the Dead kind of thing. Everybody runs to the mall, and then society just lives in that mall now. Well, that's where this story picks up, and it's really cool. Again, us being nerds and horror fans, this is right up our alley. And then there's all kinds of other things. Michael works on a lot. He's a very busy guy, which is, again, why we're so thankful that he gives us the time of day. He is super cool, super friendly. And so show him some love. Check out his social media. Check out his other projects. In this crazy quarantine time, we are huge believers in supporting the local shop. But if you can't and you need to get your hands on some comics to keep yourself sane throughout this, Comixology has almost everything of Michael's work on there, and they're usually really great prices. They actually usually have a lot of deals going on, so highly recommend that. He also has a couple of novels out, Black Star Renegades and We Are Mayhem, and both of those I think were recently on sale digitally. So again, something if you need the time, if you need something to get you through this, check it out for sure. But all of the important links will be down below. Thank you guys for being patient with us throughout this time. It's a weird mix because Megan is working less, I'm working more, and we were excited that we would get to make good use of this time. Of course, we're not excited about why quarantining is happening and all of this stuff is happening. That's not good news, but we were hoping to make good out of it. But my job deals with essential work, helping people that are directly affected by this sort of thing. And so my job is very, very busy right now. And so thank you to everybody, anyone listening who is essential, who is essential staff. I hope you feel essential. I hope you feel appreciated for what you do. I appreciate you, certainly. I know it's not easy going in and continuing to work or working more because of all of this stuff. But certainly if it's something you love, if it's something you care about, if it's important to you, then that's the motivation there. But certainly you have my thanks and my appreciation and my encouragement. And likewise, even if you're at home during this time, even if you're not working, you're still essential. You're still awesome. And hopefully our episodes are helping. They're part of your routine throughout all of this. We are hopefully going to be back on track soon with getting these out. That way you guys have something to listen to. And again, it's something we enjoy doing. It's therapeutic for us to do this. It's awesome that we get to do this. And Star Wars is a great relief during this crazy stuff. So find things to stay busy, stay active, stay proactive. Don't just do your hobbies, but get some chores done. Get that room clean that you keep saying you're going to do and you never do. Now's the time, Billy Bob, or whatever. Anyway, yeah, so if you guys liked the episode, for sure, let us know. Rate it, review it, like, share, all that good stuff, whether it's YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever. Just show the love. We certainly we appreciate the feedback. It means a lot. We don't really care about huge audience numbers. We don't really care about getting thousands upon thousands of listeners. We just care about knowing that you care. We care about knowing that what we're doing is received and well received, and that you like it. So the rates and reviews, it's more for us. It's a nice thing for us to know that what we're doing matters and is enjoyable to somebody out there. And so please, if you do that, I'm a firm believer in if you like something, you like it. So just show that love and share it out there. And again, just stay encouraged, stay busy. Stay awesome, guys. If I sound tired, I am, but I didn't want to leave this episode hanging. I wanted to make sure to give it a good end and make sure we got you all the details as far as Michael and also for this show. Be sure, if you're not already, continue to stay plugged into our social media. Even during this, mostly Megan stays very busy over there on social media, so we still have presence, and hopefully we'll have plenty of episodes to follow. We are planning our Rebels rewatch for this weekend, so look for that. And then next week we are back to our character arcs of the sequel trilogy series. So now's a good time, if you haven't already, to go back and check out our episode on The Force Awakens and our 2 episodes on The Last Jedi. Next week we're talking The Rise of Skywalker. Hopefully you picked yours up. It's on digital, it's on physical, so get that goodness and take it home with you. But yeah, so in the meantime, guys, until next time, may the Force be with you.